I always tell people when we first meet, it's kind of like a blind date. If we connect, then we'll go on a second date. I have declined 2 clients in my real estate career.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Carrie Sistare with Sistare Southern Properties out in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we talk about what it's like for Carrie and her husband to work together as a husband and wife team, choosing the right clients for you, and how Carrie has handled declining to work with clients, what you should not say yes to in real estate, and stick around to the end to hear how Carrie adjusts her goals to fit her seasonal market. Let's jump right in. Let's start off by how you got started in real estate.
Sure. I first got started in real estate as a paralegal back in 2004. It was for a law firm in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I took the first paralegal job that somebody would give me an opportunity at with no experience. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made. The attorney I worked for, he taught me so much about the real estate world and life. I worked with him for quite a few years. It was about 5.5. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know a lot about life. We were going through a strong real estate market that was booming, and it felt like the economy just turned upside down, literally, like overnight. It was interesting. It was quite a wake-up call to me, and it proved what can happen overnight. Nothing is promised to us tomorrow. We went from closing a lot of real estate transactions to filing bankruptcies to a lot of our clients that were able to purchase a home, but it was with an adjustable rate. Those rates got so high they no longer could afford the payments. And the attorney I worked for, he was such an honest guy. He was trustworthy, and he tried his best to educate every client that came through the door. They couldn't purchase the home unless it was an adjustable rate. So those people had no choice but to make that purchase without a fixed rate. So we moved to North Myrtle Beach in 2010, and I could not find a job here in Myrtle Beach area for an attorney. So I worked in the medical field for 9 years. I worked with some amazing doctors and physician assistants, individuals. We merged with 2 other offices. I was capped out with no possible growth opportunity. I was young. I knew that I was too driven to stay in that position at that pay for the rest of my working journey. I couldn't deal with someone or some business dictating and telling me that this is it or that's my stopping point in life. I just wasn't willing to stop. So right before COVID hit, we put our house up on the market for sale. I almost cried because a couple weeks later, COVID hit. Nobody knew what it was. I immediately fell back in love with real estate at that moment. I always loved it as a paralegal. I took classes online to get my license while I managed an orthopedic practice. I was a mom of 2 young children, doing my wife duties, and in the process of moving during COVID. And I got my license and started my career as a realtor at the end of 2021.
Wow, what a journey. So you've really seen it all in real estate. I kind of love talking to agents who worked through the '08 crisis because as much as COVID was scary, it had a similar effect on real estate as the actual housing market crash.
Yes.
And so, there's a certain resilience built in with that experience, right?
Yes. Right now, the market slowed down a little bit, but it's nothing compared to what I feel like 2007, 8, 9, and 10 was like, for sure.
And now you're in real estate and your spouse is in real estate as well?
Yes. My husband joined me on my real estate journey last year, April of 2023. I was quite successful my first year in, and my husband worked in sales for 20 years plus. He was miserable with his career path. And I said, well, let's give running a real estate business together a try. Other people were doing it, so I figured we could do it as well. Adjusting to someone else's business decisions and opinions when I was flying solo was an adjustment. We poured into creating more connections and relationships, and our business has definitely grown. We don't see each other as much as most people think we do. And it's helpful because we don't get sick of each other by seeing each other all day long. We time block the business plan once a month to see what is working and what is not working away from the office, which is helpful. And then we have to be considerate with one another when it comes to business decisions because we both think differently. But at the end of the day, we just focus on what we think is best for the business.
That's really cool. So are there there's certain aspects of the business that you do that he doesn't do? Like how have you kind of like broken up your tasks maybe?
I kind of do the CEO part of the business, financials, on top of working with buyers and sellers. I do all the financial stuff. I do a lot of business planning stuff. I teach and I'm on a leadership council at our office. And he is just kind of doing the sales side right now, connecting with buyers, sellers. And when we start with somebody, if that buyer starts with me, they work for me from start to finish. If that buyer starts with him, they work with him from start to finish. Because we never want somebody to feel lost, being jumped back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. And then you guys have each other to kind of, bounce ideas off of, maybe when things get a little challenging.
Yes.
What about like marketing and things like that? Is your plan mostly to play to each other's strengths, or is there an aspect of the business that neither of you are like necessarily like jumping for joy about, but maybe, you take on that task anyway?
Yeah, so he would tell you that he is not great with technology and he doesn't do social media. He's trying. He doesn't do anything in Canva. He just recently started a YouTube channel, which is kind of based on golf because we do live in the golf capital of the world. And him and our daughter do that. So kudos to him trying that. But I am doing all of the marketing, all of the social media alone. But we have goals to build and add to our team. So that will help alleviate some stress off of me. And then we'll have like another agent that will go out and show and list properties with him. And then I can focus on other stuff.
Okay, awesome. So like your next step in growth is to add another agent to your team or like a listing
Correct.
coordinator or
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congrats on
Thank
being
you.
so busy that, to expand your business. You mentioned being in a leadership role. So what kinds of things are you doing in that? What kinds of things are you advising other agents on?
Yeah, so at our office, if you're in the top percentage, then you can be elected and selected to be on the ALC, which is our leadership council. We meet once a month and we are required to teach. And so I teach different things. In June, I did the first all ladies mastermind ever in our market center. And we had about 20 ladies come in and we didn't just mastermind about real estate, we mastermind about things that we actually go through. Imposter syndrome, self-doubt, not being good enough, getting in your head, things like that, just another way of support and encouragement to others. And then I just did a separate mastermind with my husband, and it was open discussion where people asked questions and we shared. They always want the secret sauce, but every business runs differently. So we don't always have the secret sauce to what their business might grow and run off of, but we can help share ideas and systems and tools.
I think that's an excellent point that maybe what works for one business isn't going to work for every business, but just maybe for people who are curious out there, because like obviously you're experiencing growth and such success. What has been your secret sauce?
Just loving on people, just that authentic, genuine relationship and follow up communication. A lot of people think of realtors as a pushy salesperson, but it doesn't have to be that way. People just want to establish a relationship and get to know who you truly are so they can like and trust you. And I think that's super important.
I think so too. And so on that vein, when you're working with clients, like how do you approach a new client relationship? What is it like for people to work with you?
So I always tell people when we first meet, it's kind of like a blind date. I tell them that I'm meeting them for the first time and they're meeting me for the first time. I don't go in with a lot of paperwork because it's already overwhelming enough. I feel like most people are buying or selling because of a life event. And I just kind of go in and get to know them and allow them to know me. And I tell them that if we connect, then we'll go on a second date. And then we'll talk more about, especially a listing, more about like the house and what we would decide to list it for, pictures, all that stuff. And kind of buyers the same way, just kind of get to know them, fill them out, and educate them a little bit. But on the second date, we can really educate on what they need to do to start the process of purchasing a home.
I love that date metaphor. So you kind of mentioned, if you both connect,
Yes.
have there been times where you've maybe declined to represent someone?
Absolutely. I have declined two clients in my real estate career, and one was actually a referral from a previous client of mine. It was their cousin, and we just didn't connect. And so I just told them that, it's not that I didn't like them and it wasn't that they didn't like me. We just weren't connecting and seeing eye to eye. And I thought it was best for them to find somebody else to work with.
I think that's such a wise way to be able to operate in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And you've kind of mentioned before talking about mindset. How did you come to that mindset? Because that's really like an abundance mindset, right? And we hear so much about like scarcity and an abundance mindset. And especially early on in someone's real estate business, they might hesitate to say no to anyone. So, how do you find the confidence to do that?
Well, it's hard. Nobody wants to do it because they know that the only way we get paid is, to go through a closing and close at the end. I think about it as I don't want to dread that relationship, like dread every time that person calls or texts me or emails me, and I don't want them to feel that way when I were to call, text, or email them. So I had to really think about how I would want somebody to treat me. When somebody's making a purchase in real estate, because they were two buyers, it's the biggest investment of their life. And I just had to put myself in their shoes. Would I want somebody to do that to me? No. And both clients were out of state. So it's already hard enough purchasing when you're not here. And then if you're purchasing with somebody you don't feel like you could trust, I just feel like it would be discouraging and devastating to both of us if they walked in the door to a home that they didn't feel like they liked and they didn't like me. Every time they'd walk in that door, I feel like they would just think about me. And I have a reputation. And the last thing I want is somebody to say, oh my gosh, you sold me this house. We had a horrible relationship. Breaking up with them almost it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, it was good terms and we still kept in touch a little bit, and I actually connected one with a different realtor. So, and that worked out.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful. Yeah, it's like that's the silver lining there is I'm sure they found their perfect
Yes.
match, if we're going back to the matchmaking. So, Carrie, while we're on the topic of clients, do you have any like memorable client like success stories you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I have a lot. This is one of my clients from last year. One of my favorite stories. They moved here from another country. It was an American dream of theirs to move here, and they were up in the air on whether they wanted to move to Wilmington, North Carolina, or South Carolina, and they chose Myrtle Beach. The excitement during their process, it was amazing. Although we were lots of miles apart and in different time zones, because they were a couple hours ahead of us, we had so much fun with our relationship. They built a new home, so it was a new construction. They picked out their perfect lot. We took photos when they were here. Our families connected. We went to dinner because they have two small children, and we went to dinner with them when they were here. So everybody knew each other. We would go make videos. We would send them funny videos. We would send them serious videos throughout their building process. We would FaceTime constantly, and we wanted to make them feel like they were here the whole entire time. We had a roadblock at the end with the lender, and those two wonderful buyers. They stayed so strong. They had the best mindset. They stuck things out with an extended closing that was a few weeks out from their initial closing date. And the husband had already flown here and he was staying in a hotel paying night by night by night. And the lender extended the closing, and it was almost a month from their original
Oh
closing date.
my.
So when I say that they were really big troopers and their mindset was amazing through it, I can't say I couldn't have worked with a better buyer through that process because it was very stressful. And we are now great friends. We talk all the time, and his wife is starting a business here. So I'm trying to help her. She's going to start staging houses and decorating
Oh,
houses.
so
Yes.
fun.
So
That's so great. Like, look at how it all, flows together. I love a story like that. That's so cool. Let's talk about Myrtle Beach. So you had posted something recently that I guess I'm not surprised by, but it's always cool to hear these kinds of things, is that Myrtle Beach is the most moved to city in 2024. Sounds like everybody's going there. So tell us what we're all missing, right? What's so
yeah,
exciting?
so Myrtle Beach actually was just a tourist area, and we have grown a lot in the past, 3 to 5 years. And I don't think people thought it was going to grow that quick because, they weren't really striving for that. And then a COVID hit and people just started moving here. But I don't blame them because South Carolina is a beautiful southern state and we live at the coast. I love anything water related. The weather here is gorgeous. I grew up right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the first 10 years of my life, and then we moved to South Carolina. I mean, snow at Halloween, walking in snow boots to trick or treat, snowing on Easter. We don't see snow here. I absolutely love South Carolina. I wasn't happy about the move when I was 10, but the Southern hospitality here is something that, we offer at the coast of North Myrtle Beach and Myrtle Beach. We have more than just the beach. We have the beautiful intercoastal waterway, which runs all the way down to Florida. We enjoy that with friends. We have a boat, so we go out there and enjoy that. You can go to islands and hang out, fish, paddleboard, kayak. You can go out in the ocean if your boat's big enough. We have the Waccamaw River for outdoor water, fishing, boating fun. Again, lots of golf courses because we're the golf capital of the world. We have a lot of attractions and restaurants because we are a tourist area. And our area is very diverse for buyers. If you like the countryside and want to be 30 minutes or less to the beach, we offer homes in like Conway, Aner, Green Sea. They're out there, Loris. If someone wants to buy a beachfront home or a waterway home, we have those. We also have coastal homes and condos that people buy as second homes. And then we have a lot of investors that purchase here or buy homes and condos and townhomes that rent them out.
Sounds dreamy. For people who are maybe looking to buy a vacation home or invest in a rental, is there something different about the market that maybe people would need to know?
Yeah, well, each area is different. If you buy an investment in North Myrtle Beach, it's kind of easier. It's a little more open. The city of Myrtle Beach and even Surfside, they've gotten a little more strict. I mean, there's certain areas that you cannot purchase a home and rent it out short term. And that means like day to day, week to week. You could do short term, maybe like 6 months, but most of them are long term. And condos are easier to purchase in short term, rent those out. But it just depends on which area. And I just say to whoever wants to buy here, just do your research and make sure you find a great agent that is willing to look into all those for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. I was talking to a different agent recently who's in an area in Florida that is often a vacation home or whatever, and she was talking about kind of there's different
Yeah.
lending requirements there, and it's I think really important when you're looking at these kind of like destination areas that you get into those nitty gritty
Yes,
details.
definitely lending because Some you cannot get financing on, and they're cash only. And people don't know that. They look at
Mm.
it online and they fall in love with them, but they don't know all the back details to them. And then the HOAs on some condos, especially beachfront condos, can be pretty high. They can be over $500 a month. And some people don't understand what's included in each HOA. So definitely researching those out is a must.
Certainly, certainly. What would be your number one piece of advice for someone getting started in real estate?
It's hard to say number one. I feel like when you start, people don't understand that you're building a business. You're not just a realtor. You're starting from scratch. You feel like a water hose is drenching you in the face. And then sometimes you feel like you're out in the ocean on a raft by yourself and you have no idea because there's so much to do and start a business and learn how to be a real estate agent and represent buyers and sellers and investors. I just feel like it's so important to focus on one thing at a time. I educated myself so much at the beginning because I wanted to make the transaction with a buyer or seller, any client, as smooth as possible. And there's so much, I'm still learning so much throughout the process, even though I've been in real estate as a realtor and paralegal for many years. But I feel like focusing on 1 to 3 things and just being consistent with those because you have so many ideas coming at you. I recommend getting a thought book, putting your thoughts in those books or a book. And I keep a lot of notepads, so I say books. I keep one in my car at my desk, write my ideas down, go back to those, but just continue to focus on the 1 to 3 things and be consistent with them. And if something's not working, don't do it anymore. I consistently do 3 things as pouring into my business, like my sphere of influence, making relationships with other realtors for referrals, and my social media. I've nailed it down to those 3 things. I know a lot of people are like, should I door knock? Should I cold call? Should I do this? Should I do that? Pick something that you love and you like, because one day you were at a job that you dreaded, and don't go back to that is what I tell people. Like, if you dread doing something, don't do it. Don't put that into your business, because you're not going to like getting up and doing that over and over and over again, and your business isn't going to grow from it.
That's perfect. I think it is hard for people to recognize that they should stop doing the
Yes.
thing that's not working, right? I think a lot of our mindset is to fix it and that there has to be a way to fix it. But I think the simplest solution is just to
Yes.
stop. And so, kind of while we're on the subject of like mindset and stuff like that, I'm curious how you operate your schedule on a large scale, right? Because this is like a freelance contract kind of a business. You could work 24/7 if your heart desired it. How do you make sure you're not working 24
So
7?
boundaries are big, and it's hard when you start because you're hungry and you want business. I live off my calendar, and that's something my husband had to adjust to when we started, but it's color coded. I do not take any phone calls or text anybody before 8 a.m. My day kind of starts with I walk in the morning, I walk the dog, and then I walk myself if I have time, and it just sets the tone. I either listen to music or a podcast because I want something positive and encouraging to start my day. I drink water in the morning. I know people say that I'm crazy, but they say if you drink water in the morning, it helps your brain flow. I'm a strong believer of it. I know a lot of people drink coffee. I just don't. So I do drink my water in the morning, take my walk, and then I lead generate in the morning, either on social media or I do quarterly call plan. And that doesn't mean that I call people. I might text them. I might send them a card. It just depends on who it is and what they're going through in life. And then my day is just scheduled out. Like if I'm showing properties, I have that scheduled. If I'm teaching, that's on the schedule. If there's classes I want to attend to, that's on my schedule. And I try not to work past 5 o'clock because I do have a family. I want to be at my kids' stuff. I did miss a lot of things, and my husband definitely when I ran the orthopedic practice. I took a break from real estate and I managed an orthopedic practice for 9 years, and I missed out on some stuff. And I told myself when I started this business, I was not going to miss out on their life. I do open houses on the weekend. I try to get people to fill in for me if my kids have a game or a golf tournament. It comes with time and just experience. You get better at it. At first you're like, no, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And then you can't, because if self-care is very important to me, and if you work all those days and hours in the week, you don't have time for yourself, your family, your spouse, your friends. So I think that's super important to time block. Even if I just worked 8 days in a row, so I time blocked 4th of July and the 5th to spend with friends. It's super important. It's hard, but you just have to do it.
I think it is really important. And I mean, I'm sure some people are going to be looking at houses on July 4th. This is something I was thinking about this week. I'm sure there's going to be some, but I think most people are going to
Yes.
be at a barbecue or their day job if they have to work. I hope you don't. I hope you are at a
I
barbecue,
just feel like
people.
if it's that important, I can find somebody else to do it. Or they can find somebody else to do it. It goes
Totally.
back to
Yeah.
that relationship. And if you're honest with clients from the beginning and tell them, hey, I have a family, or hey, I don't work holidays. What is your work schedule like? Do you work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5? What do you take calls after 5? Do you work holidays? Okay, then it's kind of not what I want to do either. Because after 5 o'clock, somebody can get a hold of us, but attorneys' offices are closed. A lot of lenders, if they use a local bank, they're closed. So it's like, who are you getting a hold of after 6 o'clock? Like, they don't call their hairstylist and the doctor and all those people after 5. So why should we let them do that to us? And that comes with confidence in knowing your value. I didn't feel that way at first when I started, but the more I got into it and the more I listened to other people speak, I was like, okay, Carrie, know your value, know your worth, and allow other people to respect your time and your value. So it just, again, it comes with experience and getting to know yourself.
That's great. And so is there, because you're in a leadership role, you've been doing this for a while, you've got a lot of great experience. Is there maybe a mistake you see agents making a lot, or maybe a mistake you used to make that you've seen happen over and over again that you might want to help people avoid?
Yes, don't say yes to everything. It's okay to say no. I used to always be scared to say no because I'm a people pleaser and I like to help and I like to volunteer. But I heard a top agent say this, I think last year. I was listening to her speak on a podcast, and she's like, if it's not making you money, you can't say yes to everything. And it's true. There's a lot of agents that sign up to be on all these committees. And I'm like, if you're on a committee and you're in a committee meeting 3 to 4 days out of the week, how are you pouring into yourself and how are you pouring into your business? And that is one of the biggest things that I will remember forever, just listening to one person say that. I was like, because I am involved in a lot and I have stepped back from a couple of things just because I started getting caught up in work, in committees and volunteering instead of pouring into myself and my business and my family.
I think that's great advice because there is value in these
Yes,
things, right? Right, for networking and education, but you can't do every single one of them. You got to choose maybe your top one or
correct.
two.
Yes, you want to connect, network, because that's what your business is going to be built off of, making connections, networking, and then those will become relationships. But you can only spread yourself so thin.
Totally. Carrie, we're about halfway through the year. You seem like the kind of person who probably made some goals for this year. Like, do you want to share them with us? How are your goals
Sure.
going?
So when I started in real estate, I never focused on the volume dollar amount. Instead I focused on units and people because I felt like creating those relationships would get me further than just focusing on money. And to be honest, my first year, I didn't even know how to find what I made. I was just so fully invested in my business and just loving all my people that it was year number 2 before I even figured out like volume. I knew how much I made, but I didn't know what volume I did. And I know that sounds so crazy, but it's something that I just never worried about. This year, my goal has changed a couple of times. I was scared because everybody was talking about, the market, and we were normalizing and it was slowing down, but I changed my goal from 30 units to 36 units to now 40 units. We are on track for our goal. We will actually exceed our goal at the end of July for where we need to be. We do have a coach. It's something we started in January, and he made me change my aspect on looking at things. Because we are seasonal here, I used to take okay, I want to do 30 closings and divide it by 12. Well, that doesn't work here because we're kind of slow at the beginning of the year. So now my goal is cut down seasonally to where in the first and last quarter, I'm not pushing as hard because we're busier now. Like our second and third quarter, people are moving here left and right. So I had to make sure that I was pushing hard in the harder quarters than the slower. I mean, I still push hard in the slow quarters because I don't want to fall apart. But I just want to make sure that I don't lose all the buyers that are coming here in the spring and summertime. I also set personal goals, like take vacations, because that's hard for me to leave when it's a busy market. I'll share some things that I'm doing. Clemson, South Carolina is about 6 hours from here, and we're a big fan. And my daughter and I are going to attend Dabo Sweeney's big women's group that he does there, and all the money that they raise goes to breast cancer patients and people battling breast cancer. So her and I are doing a girls' trip. Then my son is going to Kansas City to represent the state of South Carolina, and we will be gone for 8 days. And that is the longest I've ever been away from our business. To where I can't be here and show houses and things, but I do have realtors in the office that I can count on that can help, and I'm okay with it. I do have a little anxiety over it, but I think after I get through this first time, I'll be okay. And then I go to Mega Agent Camp when I come back in Austin, and that's part of Keller Williams. But Mega Agent Camp is just a small learning conference that I can go to and just better myself and educate myself, but also that is an opportunity for me to go and meet different agents for referral partner relationships.
That's so cool. Oh, it sounds like you have a really, exciting rest of your year lined up.
Yes, and just setting goals. I think it's important that people don't just business focus their goals. Like they need a vision board for their business, and then they need vision board goals for their personal life too. You can get caught up in your business and not think about yourself, and you need to have goals on what you want to do, whether it's a vacation, purchase a car, buy your first house. You need goals like that to set as well.
Right. It kind of helps inform why you're working so hard,
Yes.
Right? Totally. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to let people know how they can follow you, how they can work with you?
Yes. I am on Facebook, and you can just follow me, Carrie Sistare. I do have a business page, but I don't use it as much. It's called Sistare Southern Properties. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm just now growing my Instagram. So be patient with me on that. And it's just Carrie Sistare on there as well. And those are the top 2 ways, I think.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler. Please make sure you are following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you.